Remember the 5th of November. Hey guys, Joel's coming at you with another reasoning sesh where I challenge the status quo of the wisdom of the world and the church by diving deep into the ancient scriptures, uncovering meanings glossed over by translations, really cutting to the depths of the metaphysical aspects of these ancient texts, and applying them practically to situations in our present day so that we can manifest Earth 2.0. And today I'm talking about the harvest that even the kings who have planted seeds have no way of evading.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
But before I begin, I gotta say, if you like these videos, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, really tap into this essence that's coming through at this time, because as it comes through, we literally have the potential to download those new potentials and manifest a world beyond our wildest dreams, but that's only the reality we've come here to experience. And like I said, no matter what the circumstances, those seeds are being planted by the manipulators, and in the end, no matter how high on the ladder they are, they will have to reap that harvest. And today I'm going to be talking about this very thing as we dive deep into the story of David HaMelech and Bathsheba, or David and Bathsheba. So we're going to begin reading and dissect as we go along. And it came to pass, after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still at Jerusalem. Now this was when the kings were supposed to go forth into battle, but David, for some reason, just stayed back home and was chilling. Now this is the first sign that something had already started. Something was already brewing in his heart. He had already planted a seed, and now it was just kind of showing up in the physical reality. But because of this inner intention that we don't know exactly what the details were, let's see how this unfolds and what comes out of this. And it came to pass in an eventide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself. And the woman was very beautiful to look upon. Now you know that this situation is just begging for trouble. And David sent and inquired after the woman, and one said, Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? And David sent messengers and took her, and she came in unto him, and he lay with her. For she was purified from her uncleanness, and she returned unto her house. And the woman conceived and sent and told David and said, I am with child. So as you can see, David's getting into a bit of trouble here. But let's see whether he tries to make recompense right away or whether he tries to actually justify his actions. And David sent to Joab, saying, Send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah to David. And when Uriah was come unto him, David demanded of him how Joab did and how the people did and how the war prospered. So David's just making small talk with him. But then David said to Uriah, Go down to your house and wash your feet. And Uriah departed out of the king's house, and there followed him a mess of meat from the king. So David's trying to say, go back home, enjoy yourself. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and went not down to his house. And when they had told David, saying, Uriah went not down unto his house, David said unto Uriah, Came you not from your journey? Why then did you not go down to your house? And Uriah said unto David, The ark and Israel and Yehudah abide in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go into my house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? As you live, and as your soul lives, I will not do this thing. So we can see that Uriah had a good heart, and his intention was to actually be sincere to the king and the battle. And David said to Uriah, Tarry here today also, and tomorrow I will let you depart. So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day and the morrow. And when David had called him, he did eat and drink before him, and he made him drunk. And after even he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his lord, but went not down to his house. So round 2, David tries to get him drunk to do the deed, but he's still not going. So David reluctantly sees that this is not happening. So does he turn from what he did, or does he let things escalate? And it came to pass in the morning that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote in the letter saying, Set you, Uriah, in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire you from him, that he may be smitten and die. That's pretty sinister, all to justify his act. And it came to pass when Joab observed the city, that he assigned Uriah unto the place where he knew that valiant men were. And the men of the city went out and fought with Joab, and there fell some of the people of the servants of David, and Uriah the Hittite died also. So David was so sinister in justifying his act that he actually sent the death warrant of Uriah by his own hand. And you can see that Uriah is a sincere soldier, and he carries this message to the captain, and he doesn't even know what it says. You could just see Joab like open the scroll and read it and look at Uriah, and it's just so twisted. And segue into our present day here, we're seeing just what the manipulators are pushing down people's throats. Even as ridiculous as it is, an argument without logic, we can see that they're not relenting and they're just pushing the narrative. But Source will have the last laugh, and we'll get to that in a bit here. So after all of this, Joab sent to David the things concerning the war, but he says that after you tell him what went on in the hottest battle as we approach the city so close, just make sure that you mention that Uriah is also dead. So David in his brazenness said unto the messenger, Thus shall you say unto Joab, Let not this thing displease you, for the sword devours one as well as another. Make your battle more strong against the city and overthrow it, and encourage you him. Man, that sounds like a serpent speaking almost. And this is coming from David HaMelech. And when the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah her husband was dead, she mourned for her husband, naturally. And when the mourning was past, David sent and fetched her to his house, and she became his wife and bare him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased Yahweh. So let's see how Yahweh deals with David. And Yahweh sent Nathan, who was a prophet, unto David, and he came unto him and said unto him, There were 2 men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing, save one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished up, and it grew up together with him, and with his children. It did eat of his own meat, and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd, to dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb, and dressed it for the man that was come to him. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man, and he said to Nathan, As Yahweh lives, the man that has done this thing shall surely die, and he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. And Nathan said to David, You are the man. Man, you can just see this. This is the power that prophets actually have. The prophet literally brings the court to the king's inner chambers. And you know that this conversation, people didn't know about it till way later, because this is such a private and exposing story. But Nathan literally brought the court of Yahweh, the court of Jehovah, that divine justice, right to the king's inner chambers. And literally, the king cursed himself by his own mouth. And it's by their own mouths that they fall. But really, when Yahweh calls someone out in this way, it's not without a chance to actually turn and repent. But the thing is, when people or politicians, whatever, are so brazen that they continue in their wickedness, that judgment is coming right upon them. But the message is that, you still have time. Come on, what are you doing? You're still perpetrating this sin against people, but you're actually doing it against Yahweh. I anointed you king over Israel and delivered you out of the hand of Saul. And I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your bosom. And I gave you the house of Israel and Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto you such and such things. Now, such and such is kind of a peculiar word to be written in the scriptures this way, but that literally means whatever you wanted most. Whatever you wanted most. Some sins will actually cost you your such and such. And what did David HaMelech want to do the most? He wanted to build a house, a tabernacle, the temple of Yahweh. And this was the very one thing that he was denied in life. But the reprimanding from Nathan continues, saying, Wherefore have you despised the commandment of Yahweh to do evil in his sight? You have killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and have taken his wife to be your wife, and have slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon? Now therefore the sword shall never depart from your house, because you have despised me, and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. Thus says Yahweh, behold, I will raise up evil against you out of your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes, and give them unto your neighbor, and he shall lie with your wives in the sight of this sun. For you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel and before the sun. I mean, consider what Absalom did, David's son, when he rose up against his own father and challenged his kingdom, literally creating a coup to usurp his own father, and David had to leave the city on account of his life. There's so much trouble that just fell on the house of David, even so much so that his own son tried to force his sister into bed with him. And then her brother, because, well, they were half siblings, her full brother actually went out and killed this other brother. This was the kind of strife that came down as judgment for this very act. And we can see that it was premeditated just by the way David tried to force Uriah to go back and cover up for him unknowingly, and then finally plotting and executing his very death. So because this seed was planted and because there were many players, there were all these different harvests that had to be reaped. One for David, one even for Bathsheba, one for their son. And really the price for adultery is death. Blood has to be shed in some way, shape, or form. But let's continue on and see what David's response is. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against Yahweh. So even though this was a sin against humanity, David realized that he sinned against Yahweh and that divine justice was coming down. And it wasn't that it was against these people, although it was, but it was against that divine order of things that David had strayed from. And Nathan said unto David, Yahweh also has put away your sin, you shall not die. Howbeit, because of this deed, you have given great occasion to the enemies of Yahweh to blaspheme. The child also that is born unto you shall surely die. So there had to be a judgment carried out. And Nathan departed unto his house, and Yahweh struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. Now we got to realize that Yahweh doing this thing, it's not like God saying, okay, I'm going to kill this child. It's that system of justice. That's what Yahweh embodies. So what you put out is what you get back. And because David killed Uriah, he had to face some loss on the same level himself. But David therefore besought Elohim for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose and went to him and raised him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. And the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He is dead. Then David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel and came into the house of Yahweh and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. So this is kind of peculiar. So his servants said unto him, What thing is this that you have done? You did fast and weep for the child while it was alive, but when the child was dead, you didst rise and eat bread. And he said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, Who can tell whether Yahweh will be gracious to me that the child may live? But now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. And David comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went in unto her, and lay with her, and she bare a son, and he called his name Solomon, or Shlomo. And Yahweh loved him. And we actually can see that it's through Shlomo HaMelech that Yahweh gave David HaMelech that such and such that was denied from him in the first place. Because when Shlomo was of age, David said to Shlomo, My son, as for me, it was in my mind to build a house unto the name of Yahweh my God. But the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, You have shed blood abundantly, and have made great wars. You shall not build a house unto my name, because you have shed much blood upon the earth in my sight. Behold, a son shall be born to you, who shall be a man of rest. And I will give him rest from all his enemies round about, for his name shall be Shalomo, which literally translates to shalom, which is exactly what that means: peace, rest, harmony, wholeness. And I will give peace and quietness unto Israel in his days. He shall build a house for my name, and he shall be my son, and I will be his father, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom over Israel forever. So this passage talks about how we're responsible for the seeds that we're sowing, and that harvest is going to come up. We don't know how it germinates and how it grows, but when the time comes and that harvest is ripe, we got to thrust in that sickle and reap what's coming to us. And this goes for us regular citizens as well as for the leaders above our nation. And really, this is a time when they're being called out because of what they've imposed upon us. Really, it's their move, but because of what all they've done, checkmate is already decided, and that axe is literally laid to the root. There's very little time left, and this is the message that just keeps coming up. It keeps coming up. Here in Canada, let's talk about Canada because this is where I am. They tried to enforce the jab on all social workers, but guess what? Police are leaving, firefighters are leaving, healthcare workers are leaving. Then they postponed the deadline for healthcare workers. Still, healthcare workers were leaving. They postponed it again. They couldn't stop people from leaving. They couldn't stop the message from spreading on social media. And the next thing you know, they rescind the mandate. Why would they rescind the mandate if their whole plan was to get healthcare workers to leave to replace them with their bully thugs that would, carry out martial law? If that was the case, they would shorten the deadline and get rid of them as soon as possible. But we're seeing the people awakening. This whole genetic manipulation is to try to stop the real genetic manipulation that's coming through from the higher dimensions, really as our DNA transcends the limits that have been in the past, because we are entering a new era, a new way of doing things. It already has begun, and now we're seeing the effects of the sun rising above the horizon. Our DNA is literally changing, and us purebloods are already tapping into this new essence. And the very leaders that thought they had people around them they could trust, well, Trudeau's sniper has just walked off duty. His personal sniper, his bodyguards, the RCMP, they're all leaving ranks. Why? Because they know the corruption and they're facing up to the truth. So really, I heard Source say this: make your move, Trudeau, make your move. But checkmate has already been decided. This game is already over. I can see the moves. No matter what you do, checkmate. So know that this battle is far from being lost for the kingdom of light. Really, no matter what it looks like, no matter how this hiatus seems, we're only growing in strength. We're coming together. We're building our own pieces of the puzzle. And as you participate in this acceleration, this is liftoff. We are literally breaking the glass ceiling, breaking that firmament, and transcending into the third heaven where there is no principality ruling over us with fear and manipulation. We are literally in that state of shalom. And we have that harvest reaping for us. And this harvest is coming upon the bad guys like never before. So tap into that essence, know that your DNA is ascending, and as it does, it literally functions as an antenna to higher frequencies, higher potentials, literally downloading the kingdom of heaven into this earth plane and manifesting that utopia which we've come here to live out, our destinies fulfilled. Honestly, how many of us have known that, there's something wrong with this system? There's something really, really screwed up with the way we've been living our lives, going to school, indoctrinated, living 9 to 5, whatever it is. There's something really limiting and soul suffocating about the way things are. But when you feel that, that's just a sign of a healthy individual. You have a healthy soul and you're tapping into that higher potential. And as you do, know that Source has already won this. We've already won this from the higher dimensions, and now we're seeing their kingdom coming crashing down. Babylon the Great has fallen, and has become the habitation of devils. So with that being said, I'm going to end the sesh here. I love you guys. I'll check you in a future video. Joel signing out once again. Agape. Salaam. Namaste. Shalom.